We are currently in the midst of a political season, and the candidates in New York's 1st Congressional District are in a close race. The incumbent, Democrat Tim Bishop, is running for his 5th term. His challenger, Republican Randy Altschuler, is running for office for the first time. As the main issues facing America today are economic, with a dismal job situation, it's interesting to note that Congressman Bishop's political ads are focused on one theme: the large number of jobs that his opponent has created. Mr. Altschuler, an entrepreneur who has started a couple of companies, has created jobs. So this seems like an odd point of attack. But Mr. Bishop's focus is on Altschuler's first company, Office Tiger, where many of the jobs created were overseas. Mr. Bishop claims that these jobs replace jobs in America, describing them as outsourcing, and he chose to make that the key point of his political campaign. But is Mr. Altschuler's starting of a company and creating jobs, regardless of where they are located, reason enough to re-elect Tim Bishop? What has Mr. Bishop done about creating jobs and getting the economy moving? Mr. Bishop voted for the stimulus program that the Obama administration told the American people would cap the unemployment rate at 8% and warned if we did not go along with it, unemployment would grow to 9%. Right now, almost 18 months later, the unemployment rate stands at 9.6%, and predictions are that it could go higher. Why didn't the stimulus do what we were told it would? Part of the stimulus money went to create a website, recovery.gov, that was to provide all the information we needed about the stimulus, showing that the new administration was completely transparent and accountable. So, I went to recovery.gov to see what I could find out about the $787 billion that became $825 billion. Here's a map focusing on the 1st Congressional District of New York. Each of the dots represents a project funded by stimulus money. As you can see, the blue dots represent grants, the green dots represent contracts, and magenta dots represent loans. Across the 1st Congressional District, I counted 107 such projects totaling over $294 million in stimulus funds. The recipients of these funds reported the creation of 193 jobs. That works out to a cost of $1.5 million for each job created. So if you think about it, it does not seem surprising that the stimulus has not lowered the unemployment rate much at all. Taking a closer look at the numbers, one thing stood out, and that was the stimulus money given to local school districts, where the total amount of grants equaled $105.7 million, about 1/3 of the total for the congressional district. How many jobs were created in the school district's total? 7 were reported. That comes out to $15 million per job created. In checking with the numbers with a staffer in Congressman Bishop's office, they pointed out that the stimulus legislation was to create or sustain jobs. Here's the problem with trying to measure that. Any economist will tell you there's no way to measure a job saved. But here's another issue. School spending has been far outpacing inflation. According to the Empire Center for New York State Policy, New York is #1 in the nation in spending per pupil. While school spending increased by 7.5%, inflation for New York and Northern New Jersey, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, grew only 1.6% for 2008. If we focus on the instruction spending, inflation was well under control, but expenditures grew 8.9% for benefits, 5.9% for salaries, and 7% overall. But in addition to that, the argument is, well, we need smaller class sizes. According to the Wall Street Journal, between 2000 and 2009, teacher hiring increased by 15,000, while student enrollment dropped by 121,000. In addition, the New York Times reported that smaller class sizes, which is what the union will typically point to, has had little effect on improving performance in the school. So what are Tim Bishop, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Obama doing? Instead of the school districts tightening their belts, perhaps taking a pay freeze or a modest cut, contributing more to their benefits, or facing the reality that there just may be more teachers than are needed, millions of tax dollars are poured into the school districts to keep the teachers on the payroll. Why? Well, one reason is that the unions, and particularly the teachers' unions, vote heavily Democratic. So millions of dollars are spent to buy the loyalty and votes of the unions, and the residents are given one more bill to handle and share with their children. So what are the financial implications for the 1st Congressional District? According to the Tax Foundation, using income numbers for 2004, the 1st Congressional District pays about 0.3% of all federal income taxes, as New York is one of the wealthiest states in the country, and our district is one of the wealthiest in New York State. If we assume that the stimulus debt will be paid off through individual income taxes rather than, say, for example, payroll taxes, The share of the $825 billion stimulus would be a little over $3 billion for the district. If you break that down by the average number of households in the district, that burden works out to about $12,600 in additional debt per household for the stimulus alone. So for those of you who are not teachers, you have $12,600 in additional debt to make sure the teachers union can increase their members' income by 4 times the rate of inflation. But that is the conservative case against the stimulus and those who voted for it. But think about it. What if you responded to a mailer for a new credit card, and instead of getting the card, you got your first statement and it already had a balance of $12,600 on the card, but you never did get the card? Somebody else got the card and started charging away. And that's basically what we have here. But let's say for a moment that you're a progressive. With New York being a very blue state, there's probably a fair number of progressives living here in the 1st Congressional District. And suppose you think the stimulus was a good idea. Perhaps you even thought it wasn't big enough. Well, from a good progressive standpoint, how well did Tim Bishop represent the district? Based on the numbers we worked out here, just under $300 million in benefits flowed into the district, but also $3 billion in debt. So for every dollar that the stimulus brought into the district, we were saddled with $10 in debt. To be fair to Congressman Bishop, these were not earmarked and he had no direct role in securing the money for the district. That was up to the individual applicants. But he does take credit for it on his website, referring to stimulus money that Congressman Bishop brought to our district. Congressman Bishop spent his adult working career in 2 organizations, Southampton College, which is part of Long Island University, and the United States Congress. So Congressman Bishop comes from the world of academia, teachers' unions, tenure, and far from the world of profits and losses. He is probably, although I don't know of him having said this, very supportive of his fellow teachers and their unions. While at Southampton College, Bishop rose to the position of provost, but shortly after he left, the college was threatened with a shutdown, was sold to Stony Brook University, and is currently in another battle to greatly reduce the size of the campus. One source on Southampton College refers to many years of fiscal mismanagement at the college, and while there is no link to Mr. Bishop being involved with that mismanagement, he did hold one of the top positions at the school before running for Congress. So in looking at the stimulus, perhaps he didn't run the numbers to see what a raw deal his constituents were getting. But whether you believe in the stimulus or not, there is little reason for Tim Bishop to criticize others about creating jobs, and even less reason to return him to Congress.